Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Welcome to the Dumb Trap. I go by the name of Dominique, and I am your host, your creator, your editor, your director, your producer, your executive producer, your first, your last, and your everything. You're looking good, I must say. You're looking great. You're looking healthy. I hope that you've been treating people with kindness. I hope that you've been feeling well. I hope that this weather doesn't have you down. But before we get into everything else, I do want to give a few shout outs to a few people. I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Lex. Lex, we've been friends for almost a year at this point, maybe a little bit over a year if I'm not mistaken. And I just want to say it's a pleasure being your friend, man. And yeah, we'll keep on rocking in the free world. If you don't know Lex, he was on one of my most previous podcasts. I want to say it was episode 16. So yes, do be sure to check that podcast episode out. I've also been frequently collaborating with him on several of his projects on YouTube, as well as his prolific podcast, which is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, really, and as well as on YouTube. So do go and check that out, and that's L3X_44. I also want to give a huge shout out to my boy Greg. You're still a sucker, but you and I know that. Nobody else needs to know that, except for the people listening to the Dumb Trap, of course. So, without further ado, I want to get into something real fast. It's kind of off the cuff because I recently just watched this show, but it's a show on HBO and HBO Max called Love Life. Now, I've never really been the one to like love types of shows, but this one somehow got a hold on me. It grabbed me within the first episode. The first season it's really an anthology show, but the first two seasons are about two different people. Now, the first season is about this character named Darby, who's played by Anna Kendrick, who some of you may know from Pitch Perfect. She is a 20-something that doesn't really know what love is. So she gets in a relationship with a guy that she meets by the name of Augie, I believe his name is. Yes, Augie Jung, played by Jin Ha. Some of you may know him from Hamilton. And when I was watching the show, I just thought that the whole show was just going to be about their relationship. But it's not that way. Turns out that most of the episodes are about different men that come into her life, and it's told over a span of time. So what I really liked most about this show is that the characters actually feel like real people. The friends feel like an actual friend group instead of people that were just handpicked and thrown into a circle. And it's just a realistic type of show. It tells its stories in very realistic ways. It doesn't really play nice to any of the characters. A lot of characters don't get what you think that they're going to get. Darby's character in particular, things don't work out as pretty as she may think and how you may think they will go. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the cast composes of, the first season anyway, composes one of her best friends in the show, Sarah Yang, and she's played by Zoe Chow. And she has another friend that is played by, I cannot remember her name, it's escaping me right now, but they are a friend group. Sarah's character does have a boyfriend, and he goes by the name of Jim. They're happy, they're in a relationship, but with this being a TV show, there's no telling how long that's going to last. It's up to you to find out when you watch the show. Highly recommend it. I especially recommend the second season, which is played by William Jackson Harper, the main character anyway. And it's also narrated by Keith David. And Jessica Williams plays the quote-unquote love interest in that season. And it's a really fun time. It's this second season is about this guy who is not necessarily down. He starts off kind of up. He's in a healthy relationship with his wife, and they're at this wedding party, and they're having a great time, and things seem okay, and till they aren't. Things kind of get sour pretty quickly in the first episode, and I think one of my favorite jokes on a TV show was told in that first episode. There was one time where the main character, whose name is Marcus Watkins, he's talking to one of his buddies, and he's saying, I just feel like she doesn't know who I am, and she just doesn't really treat me any kind of way. And his friend goes, "Well, bro, who?" He was like, "Who are you? Are you Spider-Man?" And I lost it because I mean that's what he was seeming like. Like he seemed like he was some kind of superhero that just didn't want people to know his identity. But yeah, the first episode ends off on somewhat of a cliffhanger. But all of the season, well, yeah, both of the seasons are out. All of the episodes are out. Each season is 10 episodes long. Once again, do check it out. I kind of watched it on a whim. I finished it in about 2 days. Yeah, about 2 or 3 days or so. But yeah, Love Life is the name of the show with Anna Kendrick and William Jackson Harper. Yeah, check it out. Especially if you like shows about love. I think this might be right up your alley. And even if you like shows that are somewhat realistic and not cartoony and hand holding in any way, these shows kind of break you. There will be episodes where you'll just say, oh man, I wish that this character had better, but that's just not the case. Um, I also want to talk about a movie that I saw last month, and I really didn't expect much from it, to be honest. I knew that Edgar Wright was going to be directing this new movie with Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy. And I saw the trailer for the first time and I said, this looks good, but it doesn't look spectacular. But then again, like I said, I always had that thought in the back of my mind that it's Edgar Wright and he hasn't really missed while making a movie. He didn't miss with Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead, Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and everything else. I've never seen him direct a bad movie, and after I watched this movie, I can still say the same. Last Night in Soho is a movie that was kind of a slow burn, depending on how you look at it. It's not going to give you all the details right away. It's not going to explain everything right away. The more you watch, the more you figure things out, and the better the movie gets. Because the movie, it seems like it's setting up to be some sort of thriller, but then it ends up turning into a horror. And if you know me, and if you listen to other episodes of the podcast, you know that I'm a huge horror fan. And it goes right into some of the even horror cliches, but does it even better. And it's about the main character. She played by Thomasin McKenzie. She was in Old, if you haven't seen that already. And she wants to be a fashion designer, so she wants to go to this art school in London, where her mom well, I don't know if her mom actually went to the art school, but her mom did spend some time in London. So she'd always fantasized about going to London and having such a great time and whatnot. And she spoke with her grandmother before leaving, and her grandmother even asked her a few times, are you sure that you want to do this? Are you sure that you want to go? Because it wasn't healthy for her mom. And at this time, her mom has passed away. We really don't know how. She ends up saying, yes, I still want to go to London. She gets in the cab and gets her bag and she leaves. But when she gets to the school, when she gets to London in general, things aren't as happy as she hoped. Because she gets in this taxi cab and she has this rude and kind of weird and nasty taxi driver. And he calls her a model and says, oh, you'll see a lot more of me. And it's just weird. So she escapes him. She goes to the school, avoiding any guy that tries to help her up some steps. And then she gets to her room and she meets her roommate, which is not really a great roommate at all. She just seems kind of self-centered, doesn't care. She's a quiet hater. She asks our main character what she's wearing, and our main character has made her own outfit. But when she gets to another group of girls, she says, oh, well, how does she have the audacity to wear her own clothes? And it's just, you know that she's just not good company, and she's not at all. So they end up going out to the pub, I guess, and having a few drinks and whatnot. And this guy comes up to their girl group and he just says something kind of random about this is some kind of random pickup line. It's just kind of whatever. But our main character's, I'm sorry, I can't remember this girl's name, but our main character, she is looking at this guy and the roommate says, well, how about you go with her if she has a few drinks in her system? And that kind of ticks our main character off. So like it would just about anyone else. So at that point, she's not having a good time anymore. Things aren't, like I said, as happy as she thought they would be. And then she somehow gets the idea to leave the dorms at the school and go live out on her own. And she goes to this apartment. She calls this apartment lady that has this room for rent. She calls her and says, "Hey, I'm a student. I need somewhere to live. Do you have anything for me?" The old lady says, "Yes, come stay here with me. Have a room upstairs." So she does. And everything just seems quite peachy. It's a little bit expensive, so she picks up a job to afford everything. But when she sleeps the first night, she has this ethereal dream that she's someone else, and she has this dream to be a performer. And this someone else is also played by Anya Taylor-Joy, by the way. And she wants to be this performer, and she has this guy, this super hot looking guy who's played by Matt Smith. I know him from The Crown. A lot of you may know him from something else. But he's telling her, "Hey, you just come with me, and I'll make sure that you get everything that you want." But things don't really work out the way that she even thought they would. So a few nights later, she has a few more dreams, and she sees that something terrible has happened to Anya Taylor-Joy's character. And she spends the movie trying to figure out what's happened. And things just get worse and worse and worse, to the point where she doesn't even want to go home and go to sleep, because she's actually feeling things from these dreams, and she's having these nightmares of ghosts, and she's seeing ghosts around her, and she's freaking out in public, and it's a terrible look for her. And it's just, that's where the horror element came in. And that's when I was like, oh, well, we're literally in a full-fledged horror movie. We even have our black character, which, at this point, I don't know if he's going to die, don't know if he's going to live, but I was there to see him live all the way through. But yeah, Last Night in Soho. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. I don't think it really did well in theaters because many people probably didn't know about it. The marketing was kind of shoddy with this movie. The trailer was kind of misleading in a way, but I do love how the movie is pretty slow at first and then just kind of dissolves into chaos. And I enjoy movies like that. Hereditary was the same way. Granted, that chaos started a lot earlier than it did in this movie, but yeah, give me a movie with a plot that makes sense, even though there are some supernatural elements in the movie. Give me something that may be creepy to some people. May not be creepy to me, but may be creepy to some people. And yeah. And also with the whole London aspect of it, every scene in London seemed like it was taken right out of 1960s London. From the music, the way the streets look, the cars, the movie theaters, the location. It's just, overall, they nailed the look and feel of 1960s London. The way that things looked so bright and pretty, but there was also such a dark undertone to everything. There was always an alley that just seemed kind of sketchy. And it's really immersive, and they did a really great job just pulling you into the world. And that's what I appreciate Edgar Wright doing with this movie, because it could have easily been a movie where you just see and then you watch and say, oh, well, that was that. But no, when I finished watching this movie, I continued thinking about it, and I continued thinking about it, and I had to go back and see it again. The replay value wasn't as great. I will say that much, but the movie overall, it's an 8 out of 10. If I have to give it a rating, it's an 8 out of 10. And that's just because, like I said, the fact that it makes sense plot-wise, the characters are likable at least. They are great actors in this movie. Nobody does anything bad. Yeah, I just feel like I wanted a little bit more from this movie, especially with some of those unanswered questions. Our main character has some sort of condition that her grandmother mentioned, but it was never really said outright what this condition was and how she was able to see these dead people, and including her dead mother. It was never really explained, so we just kind of have to imagine that she can just see specters, and that was it. I just wanted a little bit more. I feel like if I would have got more of that, and if they just would have explained things a little bit better, I just would have been okay. But another movie that I saw recently that I wanted a little bit more from was Dune. Now, I've never seen the old Dune movies. I've never read the books. I don't really know much about Dune. Before I really didn't know much about Dune, but everyone was telling me this is going to be movie of the year. This is a huge event. You're going to love this. Make sure you see it in IMAX and yada, yada, yada. And me, I try not to get excited for things anymore. I've been let down way too many times. So with Dune, and I was talking to Lynn, by the way. Hey, Lynn. I was talking to Lynn about it. And Lynn was like, from the Bros Who Think podcast, by the way. Lynn was like, Dom, this is going to be the best thing you see all year. I can't wait. Just wait. And I was like, okay, that's fine. The movie comes out. I go and see it opening night. There were maybe 20 people in theaters because the movie was also released on HBO Max. And watching the movie, it was a little bit of a slow burn. I'm not going to lie. It was great going into this new world and just getting a fresh sight of everything new. I mean, it's similar to Star Wars, but not exactly. There are no lightsabers or anything, but there are dunes, I should say, and their factions and things of the sort. It reminded me of Game of Thrones, really. But I will say this: Dune is a gorgeous movie. I love how seamless the CGI is with the locales and the vehicles that they use and the fight scenes. A lot of that stuff just looks real, like it looks believable, like that's what it could be so many years in the future. But we still have this story that is drip feeding us details. We have our main character, and his name is okay, I have to let this guy's name. I am so sorry. But he's played by Timothy Chalamet, who a lot of people love. And his last name is Atreides. I do know that much. So his first name is, a lot of you Dune lovers, y'all may hate me for this. Y'all really may hate me for this. I want to say it's Paul Atreides. Yeah, it's Paul Atreides. And he is kind of like a prince-like character. His father's somewhat of the head of the faction, of the family, or whatever, however you would like to put it. And he has this mother who isn't really into the whole thing, but she just kind of does her own thing. She has her own background that she's, keeping secret from a lot of people. So with everything that's going on, there's this one place, and it's basically where most of Dune takes place. And they have basically desert sand that's called spice. And apparently it gives people superhuman powers. They still really didn't do a great job explaining everything. But there are all these other factions that want to get to this spice and take everything. But the people that are native to the planet are doing a great job of keeping people away. So Paul and his dad, played by Oscar Isaac, they make the journey to the planet Arrakis. That's what it's called, Arrakis. The planet Arrakis. And they are basically there to help the Iraqians, I guess I could say, protect the planet. But they also want some of the spice. It's kind of different. I guess they were the best people to have according to the people of Arrakis. And everything in the movie is just on such a great scale. Like everything just seems big. They're on these spaceships that are huge, and he does the director Denis Villeneuve. He does a great job of showing how small everything that matters is, because he'll show a spaceship landing, and then you'll see people leaving it, and they literally look like ants. So it just kind of shows, like, a lot of what they do is big considered to us, but these are little people. Like everything is way bigger than them. I just like how that was done. Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa, and Zendaya are also in this movie. So I already thought that this was going to be a win with this cast, and Hans Zimmer doing the score, by the way. He did a fantastic job, I will say that. But the thing with Zendaya's character, I don't really like how they chose to do things in this first part. I guess I should say, because part two has been confirmed for, I think, 2023. The way they did Zendaya's character is that she's there, but she's not really there. She appears in these flashback sequences, and it's like every time she was on camera, you see her blue eyes, and she's just like, and you don't hear her say anything. And it's so weird because it's like, do something, Zendaya. Or at least they need to show us what is actually happening, because I'm sitting here in the theater and I'm like, okay, so that was a thing. And it's just some of the choices that they made. I get why they did it. They do want to explain this stuff later and show us who these characters are later. But I'm the type of person where if you're going to show me this brand new universe and show me all these great things about it, I want to see a lot of it now and a lot of it later. Don't give me so little to where I'm like, okay, that was kind of pointless, because that's how I was with this movie. I hate that I had to think about it that way, but I was really like, okay, this was a little pointless. I want more. Show me more. You are a movie for me. Like, just do it. Um, as far as the villain side of things, you have Stellan Skarsgård, who was fantastic as the Baron, who's like this fat white bald man who can like float in the air, and it's like he was just intimidating. He seemed like he was a force to be reckoned with. He seemed like he was a smart guy that knew what he was doing, that knew how to get what he wanted, even though he was outsmarted eventually. But he was just like an overbearing thing. Like, as soon as they showed him, I said, oh, this guy's gonna be a problem. And of course he turned out to be a problem. And he's still a problem. So I'm really interested to see what they do with his character. Dave Bautista plays his nephew, I believe. Yeah, he plays his nephew in the movie. And I really didn't get much from him. He was just doing Bautista things, being big and bulky and kind of screaming, but not really at the same time. I just wish that more would have been done, but I guess we'll get more later, of course, because he makes it out alive. So that was cool stuff. It was a good movie. I'm not going to say it was great. I'm not going to say that it was everything that people were clamoring for it to be. I do like some of the memes that resulted from the movie of people saying this is how you should watch Dune, and people photoshopping the movie on like Nintendo DSs or PSPs and stuff. That's hilarious. But it just wasn't a movie that filled the hole that I have in me movie wise. It wasn't something that I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. It wasn't that. It was not that. But hopefully I'll think better about it when part two is released, or if I read the books, maybe. I'll feel better about this first part. But like I said, it's just the storytelling element was fine. It was serviceable, but I could have done without the whole Zendaya doing the thing. I would have been okay if I wouldn't have got that. So if I have to give Dune a score, it gets a 7 out of 10 for me. I wish I could go higher, but it's just a 7 out of 10. The whole movie just kind of feels like a dream. And at one point, I'm like, I don't know if this is actually happening, or is this just going to be Paul's character waking up from a dream at the end of it. I got feelings like that. I shouldn't have, but I just got a feeling like that. So I just wasn't really I wasn't really immersed in everything yet. It's like I was watching a movie from outside when I was actually inside watching it. But I will say this, it was more of an experience than anything else. Ex- as far as that goes, being in the theater with the booming speakers beside you, and the scenes where these spaceships are in space and you're hearing this big boom and all these horns are coming in and violins are being played, that was a lot of fun. But the plot, I can't say the same about the plot. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we'll get something in part two. But from when I watched this movie in theaters, I just did not get that. I did not get the satisfaction and feeling that I really wanted to get. So, Dune is a 7. Dune is a 7. Great world. Things setup wise were okay, but it's a 7. And speaking of things that were set up well, The Last Duel is a movie that a lot of you may not even know about because of how the marketing was done. Now, this movie is a 21st Century Studios movie, which, if you don't know, is basically what Fox was. And most of you may know that Fox was bought out by Disney and became 21st Century Studios. And I feel like this movie was being worked on before the whole deal and transaction went down. And I feel like Disney is the reason why this movie didn't do great in theaters. The marketing wasn't really there for this movie. I think I saw the trailer maybe once or twice and really didn't get much from those trailers. I just saw that Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Adam Driver, and Jodie Comer were going to be in this movie. But other than that, I really didn't have many feelings about what I saw from the trailer. So there was one Friday afternoon, I was bored and said, I'm going to go to the movies. And The Last Duel was playing. So I said, well, I haven't heard a single soul say a single word about this movie. I'm going to check it out. And I was literally one of 3 people in the movie theater. If that says anything, I was one of 3. Granted, like I said, it was a Friday afternoon, but still, opening weekend, that's kind of shady. And the movie is about 2.5 hours long, and it starts off with a battle, and that kind of shocked me. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. There's Matt Damon, who you could tell it is, and Adam Driver, and they're suiting up for battle. The movie's called The Last Duel, so you already have a duel that's being set up. And I'm like, okay, so this movie's going to be told from different timelines. It's going to be told from the end of the movie to, I guess, the beginning or middle of someone's life, and that's exactly what it was. So the movie is told by the view of 3 different characters, one being Matt Damon's character, the second being Adam Driver's character, and the third being Jodie Comer's character. And Adam Driver's character and Matt Damon, they're basically war buddies. They fight in wars, and Ben Affleck is basically who they go to war for. And he has like this blonde hair. He reminds me of Eminem days from the 90s and the whole Stan thing. So I got a laugh out of that. And this movie, it has some humor. You could tell that they were like, hey, we're making money. Let's make a movie and make even more money off of it. And they just seemed like they were in their element. If they seemed like they were doing this movie for fun and just for them in general. Matt Damon has a mullet in this movie, and I could not unsee it. So every time I see him without that mullet, it just seems so weird. But movie-wise, it was great. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It was really epic. It was expensive. It was big. It was dramatic, and nobody saw it. So I really didn't have anyone to ask, hey, what did you think about The Last Duel? Because no one saw it. It was at our movie theater for maybe 2 weeks, if that. Maybe 13 or 14 days, but no one saw this movie that I could really, ask about. They're like the one guy that I saw it in the theaters with. I did go up to him and say, hey, what did you think about the movie? He just said, oh, it was great. And that's all he said about the movie. But yeah, it's based on a true story. It's about an encounter that changed their lives. Jodie Comer's character has something done to her, which she comes out and says it was done to her, but no one wants to believe her because this is something that they weren't really accustomed to. If this were to happen to someone, they would just kind of keep it on the hush. I don't really want to say what it was, but yes. So the movie's told, like I said, through the lens of 3 different people. And by the end of the movie is like you get the most credible source of the actual event that took place. Because in the first lens, you don't really see much about it. You get a good glimpse in the second lens, but it's not exactly how it went when told through the third lens. So, like I said, at the end of this movie, it's literally a last duel. You have Matt Damon versus Adam Driver. And it's like, I was excited because I knew we were getting it. And I like both of these guys, but the fact that one of them was going to be the victor kind of kept me on the edge of my seat. I wanted to see who was going to win. Was this guy gonna fight for his woman's was he gonna fight for his woman, or was he just gonna fight for, and win, I mean, or was he gonna fight for her and then lose and be killed because of it, because of something that he really doesn't even know what happened. So I was I had a lot of fun with this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. The fact that it was just kind of action, it was kind of action oriented, it was drama oriented. The story was great, based on a true story. So it was great to watch this movie. And I have to give it an 8 out of 10. If I have to score it, it's an 8 out of 10. I would see it again. I might buy it on Blu-ray because it was that much fun. Like I said, it begins at this kind of like this old style night battle on a hill with horses and stuff. And I've always been a fan of kind of I've always been a fan of that stuff. So yeah, it wasn't cheap. You can tell it wasn't cheap. It was directed by Ridley Scott, who is, I guess you could say, is a goat when it comes to directing Hollywood movies. So to see that nobody really saw this movie and it flopped is kind of disappointing. But you've heard it from me if you haven't heard from anyone else that this is a great movie that you should see whenever you can. So I just feel like they should have gave this movie more of a chance. I get why they didn't. The subject matter isn't really something that you want to throw on top of billboards and everything else, but The Last Duel is an 8 out of 10. But one other movie that is not an 8 out of 10 would have to be The Eternals. Now, if you keep up with Marvel movies, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Eternals is the new movie, the new Marvel MCU movie, directed by Chloe Zhao, and it stars, and it has so many actors playing different roles in it. But I mean, even Angelina Jolie is a character in this movie, and she plays this hero by the name of Thena, and it literally seems like she has to play this background character. And me growing up in the 90s, I've seen Angelina Jolie in so many movies. And to see her just kind of be sidelined every time she gets a little bit of screen time is kind of hilarious to me, because I feel like this movie was shot with the idea of not making everyone happy. I will say that. I feel like they shot this movie and were like, well, we're not going to make everyone happy with this movie, so let's just try to get to the next place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's exactly what it seemed like. But it does star Gemma Chan, who I recognize from Crazy Rich Asians. If you haven't seen that movie, do check it out. Richard Madden, he was in Game of Thrones. He plays Icarus. Kumail Nanjiani, he plays Kingo, and I know him from Silicon Valley. And Leah McHugh as Sprite, I don't know who she was, but the character Sprite in this movie was almost unbearable. I'll get into her character in a bit. But Brian Tyree Henry, who was really who I came to see this movie for his portrayal of Paperboy in Atlanta, he plays this hero named Fastos. So I was like, yes, this is going to be cool. Lauren Ridloff, she plays Makari, who is a deaf speedster in the movie. Barry Keoghan, who plays Druid, who can read the minds of other people. Don Lee plays Gilgamesh, his literal power is to pip slap anything that gets near him. And it's hilarious. And yeah, and Selma Hayek, she plays Ajak, who is kind of like the lead Eternal. She's the leader of the group. She's the heart and the soul of the group. She's the reason why the group is what they are. So, me not really knowing too much about the Eternals besides of what I've seen on TV and from YouTube videos, I really didn't know how this movie was going to be handled, but they could have done a way better job. Now, if you don't know, the Eternals are a group of superheroes, I guess you could say, created by Celestials, which are like basically gods in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they were sent to Earth, and they basically made everything. There's basically no religion, and history is just what they did and what they created. So you have these 10 characters, and they've known each other for like, I think, thousands of years or so, or hundreds of years. I think 700 years or something like that. So they've seen things happen, but were told not to do anything about them. And when I heard that, I said, oh, so they just stood back and watched slavery happen and watched the Holocaust happen. And that's literally what they did. Because their reasoning for doing this is because they said that humans needed to evolve on their own, basically. They didn't need any interference. So when when that was explained, I said, okay, this isn't gonna go the way that they thought it would. There's literally a part in the movie where Brian Tyree Henry's character named Fastos, he's like the Eternals IT guy. He comes up with all the experiments and stuff and pushes things forward in time as far as, technology. And he goes to Hiroshima after the bombings and basically says, "What have I done?" And when I seen this come on, I kind of just threw my head to the side and I rolled my eyes because I could not believe that they actually took it there. I didn't think that they would, but they actually took it there. I was a little bit weirded out by it, but I feel like they just said, "Oh, this is going to be artsy fartsy," because technology and weapons is bad. So let's just throw this scene in there to show people and show that our Eternals are not great people. And it was just, I don't know. I don't want to say that the timing was bad because that was years ago, but yeah, it was not done in a spectacular way at all. I can say that much. And this movie got a lot of flack before we even saw it because the critics saw it and they really didn't like it. And they went on Rotten Tomatoes and I think it was at maybe 59% by the time we got the movie, which is the lowest rated MCU movie ever since 2008. It's Iron Man anyway. But I don't feel like this movie is that bad. I will say that. This movie is better than some of the bad MCU movies. This movie is better than Thor: The Dark World. I can say that with my chest. The Eternals is better than Thor: The Dark World because that movie was a snooze fest. I didn't enjoy it at all. But I do think people were freaking out. People were freaking out because this movie has a gay character in it. And there's one scene in particular that I can see people got mad at, but it's like it's not that big of a deal. This is a fictional character in a fictional universe. Why are you upset? This was also the first Marvel movie to have an sex scene, and the way it was handled was just kind of like, oh, okay, like, some of this stuff was left up to imagination, but the fact that they showed that for maybe 7 to 10 seconds, like I said, I saw the reports about it. People were upset. I was like, I get it, but like, it's not that big of a deal. And that was my whole thing going into this movie. I was like, okay, I've seen what people have said. I've seen some of the reviews. I've seen some of the scores, even though I tried to stay away from it. But this movie was not that bad. Granted, it was a little bit boring. It did have things that could have been cut out and would have made for a better movie, probably. Things should have been explained a little bit better. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. And that's why if I got to give it a rating, it's a 7 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10. I can't recommend it to everyone because everyone's not going to have the same open mind that I have with some of these movies. But it's just a movie that is sort of essential. I'm trying to see where the MCU is moving with Phase 4, but it's not as excitable as, say, the Spider-Man movie that we're getting next month, or the Doctor Strange movie that we're getting in May, or the fourth Thor movie. I can't say that it's on the same level as I can't say that they're equally excitable, but yeah, like this movie, it wasn't a stinker. It was a little bit underwhelming. There was a villain in this movie who kind of comes out of nowhere and is basically sidelined. And it was a weird choice because they set him up like he was going to be a big deal. He was just going to be a problem. But when the the end of the movie and the climax happens, he's there. He interrupts the fight. He pops up. He's there. I'm like, okay, we're gonna find out who this character is, and we're gonna find out his true motive, why he's doing what he's doing, and then he's just gone. The movie just says, okay, away with him. And I just thought that was just such a weird choice. I thought it was a really weird choice. I feel like if they were going to do a villain and build him up to where he's just this Eternals killer, basically, he's this strong guy that absorbs their powers. If he's doing all of this, he has to have some kind of something. But no, they just axe him at the end of the movie. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that was that character who shall remain unnamed. Oh, man. And the fight at the end. Like I said, he interrupted the fight to no avail. Nothing happened good for him. He just wasted time, basically. And then I'm expecting another big fight with something, some kind of big something, or the Eternals just going against each other. But Kumail Nanjiani's character, Kingo, he literally just leaves the final act. He's like, oh, y'all are about to fight? Okay, cool. I'm leaving, and I'm taking my camera guy with me. So y'all can do what y'all got to do. And I was just like, well, I like this character. I would like to see more of him, but that was not the case. But I will say the most anticipated things with this movie were the two after credit scenes. One showing a character from the comics that isn't really known or hasn't really been shown in the MCU, and another character who is in the movie, played by Kit Harington, who is also in Game of Thrones. He finds this sword, and then you hear someone's voice in the background. I don't want to spoil it for you. It was a cool detail that they threw in because I had no idea whose voice it was. But if you want to find out, I guess watch the movie. Don't go in with super high expectations or you will be disappointed. And just try to enjoy what you can with this movie because it is not the best thing smoking. I can say that. I just don't know what their thought process was behind the villain or the quote unquote villain in the movie where he's a killer and then he just gets axed off. Like, I just feel like that was such a weird story choice on Chloe's part and Marvel's part. Like, it seemed like they were setting something up just to let it fail. Super weird. Very, very weird. But we do have a new Ghostbusters movie that's being released. And I am very excited to see it. And I believe it's coming out yes, I'm seeing it tomorrow. I already have my ticket. It's coming out tomorrow. I'm excited for it. I am not looking for too much with this movie. I am looking for a great time, or at least a good time. I feel like I really had to lower my expectations with a lot of these movies. And I feel like Eternals was really a stinker on that front. Yeah, it was a stinker. But I think another downfall with this movie, not to stay on Eternals, but with this movie, it just seems like there were too many characters that they want us to think about or care about. And it tried to do too much with way too little and ended up doing way too little. So I'm happy for Chloe for actually getting to direct a Marvel film. I did love Nomadland, which she directed, but this movie was just not hit for me, and I wanted it to be. I wanted to get a good MCU movie besides Spider-Man this year, but no, that wasn't the case. And Shang-Chi, by the way, Shang-Chi was great, but no, that wasn't the case. So I'm looking forward to basically everything else that's coming out this year. It's just funny. I'm sorry if I just keep laughing, but I just think it's just so funny how they just axed a main villain, quote unquote, and didn't do anything else with him. For other movies I am excited to see, I'm also excited, or along with Ghostbusters Afterlife, I am excited to see King Richard with Will Smith. He's playing the father of Venus and Serena Williams. Pretty excited to see that one. I love Will Smith. I hate that he's going through what he's going through with his own family, but you can't make a man do what he doesn't want to do unless your name is Jada Pinkett Smith. But I'm not going to get into that here. And also on the 24th, we have several movies being released that day. We have the Resident Evil movie, Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, I will say I've seen this trailer about 4 or 5 times, and it hasn't done a single thing for me. But I love Resident Evil, so I will check it out. But when I've seen this trailer, every time I've seen it, I'm like, this looks like a YouTube movie. This looks like a YouTube short film. But we have a full-length Resident Evil movie that isn't like the other Resident Evil movies by with Mila Jovovich and her husband. And it's just, I want it to be good. I want to get a good Resident Evil movie. It's been a long time, but trying to keep my expectations in check. That way I'm not disappointed if it's not what I want it to be. We also have Encanto. Now, you know me, well, you know my thoughts about Disney. And you know that Disney can do some good things, but Disney can also do some bad things, like not promote The Last Duel. But they have been promoting this Encanto movie. It has music by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It looks like it might be good. It's about a character who lives in this house, and it seems like all of her family members have some kind of special powers. She has a sister that's very strong. She has a sister that's perfect, basically. She has a little cousin, I think, that can talk to animals, but she can't do anything. And then something's happening with the house, but I don't know. I do want to check it out. And then we also have House of Gucci coming out with Lady Gaga, Adam Driver again, Jared Leto, Salma Hayek. This movie is star-studded, and I am very excited to see it. I do know the story about, about the whole Patricia Reggiani situation and her basically putting out a hit on her husband. And it's just, I want to see it. I like Lady Gaga as an actress. I did love her in A Star Is Born. Shout out to Bradley Cooper, by the way. He's amazing. I saw American Sniper for the first time since I saw it back in 2014. And the movie hit harder now than it did then. I like that movie a lot. But yeah, for the rest of this month, that's what we have. And I'm excited to see what's coming in December. I know we have several movies lined up for December, including Spider-Man No Way Home, of course. But yeah, I'm super excited for the Matrix Resurrections. I am tripping. The the new Matrix movie, Matrix 4. I'm really looking forward to that movie. I love Keanu Reeves, as many of you may know. I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I want to see what he does with the character of Morpheus in this movie, because it's not Lawrence Fishburne. So I'm really interested to see if they're going to do his character justice or they're going to butcher everything. So yeah. Matter of fact, I do think it is Matrix Resurrections. Right? If I'm not, don't kill me in the comments, but I think. Let me just look this up because I don't want to be wrong here. I don't want to be wrong about a film franchise that I absolutely love, but I am just blanking on the name of this new movie. It is Resurrections. I was right. So you can hit me up in the comments, but I believe that's all I have for you today. I would love to keep going, but I kind of want to do something else real fast. So please like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Leave feedback. Tell me hey if you want to. You can tell me bye if you want to. Tell me if you're loving the content. Tell me if you're hating the content. That's fine with me. We'll keep on doing what we do here at the Dom Trap, and you can get with it or get lost. So share with your friends, share with your mom, your dad, your grandmother if she likes to listen to me, cousins and all that, nieces, nephews. Just spread the word. Like I said, I do want to get more consistent with the thing. This thing will be getting more consistent in the future. I probably sound like a broken record, but that's just how it is. I really do appreciate all of you guys for listening, all of the feedback that you give me, and all the text messages that I get asking where the next episode is, and me not really necessarily having an answer sometimes. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, sharing, and leaving me fire emojis when I post everything on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all the socials that I'm on. So I appreciate every last one of you. I hope that all of you are staying safe and staying healthy. I hope that all of you are telling your loved ones that you love them while they're here, because we lost a rapper today. Today is Wednesday the 17th of this recording. Young Dolph passed away. He was shot in his hometown of Memphis. So yeah, rest in peace to Young Dolph, man. He was 36 and he just had a kid recently. And this is a guy that I'm not gonna say I wasn't a fan of his music, but his music wasn't really my taste for the longest amount of time. But when I did get around to listening to his music, I did find myself enjoying it and enjoying some of the interviews that he also was in. And it's just unfortunate that this had to happen where he basically was raised. He always talked about in interviews how the danger of being a rapper was going outside of your hometown, but the fact that he was murdered in his own hometown just kind of shows that that was an even more dangerous place than the places that he might have been even thinking of moving or talking about moving to. So rest in peace, prayers to Young Dolph and his family, sending my condolences, and yeah, tell your loved ones that you love them. Check on everyone in your life, especially your strong friends. Some of them may need a checking up on, so don't be a stranger to those people. And never be a stranger. Just don't be a stranger in general. I mean, if you have a family member that you're thinking about, give them a call. Just don't send them a text message. Just call them and make sure everything's okay. So yeah, I'm signing off here. This has been the Dom Trap. I hope you enjoyed the show. I do plan to be back a little bit sooner than I was this last time. We'll be back soon with some more topics, and we'll have a discussion about something else in the future. So shout out to all of you listening, and I shall see you on the next episode. Peace.